Hey, welcome to another episode of Bits and Bytes. Today I show you a neat little trick how you can use VirtualBox Port Forwarding to treat your VM as if it were any other server on your network. Have you ever had the use case where you kind of spun up a VM on your machine and all you really needed was the terminal, and you kind of then click into the desktop to just use the terminal inside? So what I mean here is like, if you happen to have a Linux machine, you boot it up and get this new little window. And then you basically just log in into that VM and then just use the terminal inside this VM. Well, the good news is if all you really care about is the terminal and being able to execute commands, you can use just port forwarding and SSH to connect to your VM as if it were any other server on your network. So how does that actually look like, right? So let's say, as said before, if you had a use case where you would just log into your VM, and then, the first thing and the only thing you really do is kind of to say, hey, I need a new terminal, and now execute a command line, a command on the command line, or many commands on the command line. You don't need this desktop here at all. What you could do is you could head to your settings of your VM, go to the network tab, and then open this little advanced arrow, which has this little gimmick port forwarding hidden right here. And oddly enough, I've seen many people that are not even aware of this capability. That's why it's so amazing, and that's why I want to give you this little tip. So if you click on this, you can go in here and specify a port forwarding rule. Here I have it already set for my VM. So you see I have one rule here. You can add many rules with this plus here, and you can delete them with the X here. But you can essentially say, you add a new port forwarding rule for your host port, which is your local machine, aka in this case my MacBook here, and your guest port, which is the guest OS or the VM running on your machine. And what I have defined here is that I say, dear VirtualBox, please forward any traffic that is sent to my local host, aka my MacBook again, on port 2228. Forward that traffic to my VM on port 22. In this case, port 22 is the SSH port. So what I can do here, and this is also really neat, you can actually change this at runtime. So I could have just changed this up to another one, let's say 2229, and say okay here and okay here, and this is saved at runtime. You see the VM is running here. And now I can go ahead and say SSH oracle at localhost. Oracle is the user in that VM. And localhost is my MacBook here, but I use the -P to tell SSH, please, connect not to localhost port 22, but localhost port 2229, which is the port that VirtualBox will forward to port 22 inside my VM. So essentially when I hit enter here, I will reach my SSH server inside my VM, which you see right here. It says, hey, there's a machine here, here's the fingerprint. Do you want to add this to your SSH file or to your known host file or not? I say yes here. Has been added to the list of known hosts, and now I can just log into my machine. And now I'm here at Oracle at localhost, but this is actually my VM that I'm connected to. The proof that this is the VM is I can go ahead and shut this down here, and you will see that I'll get disconnected. There you go, connection closed, because my VM is shut down. But I did this also for another reason, because another nice little thing about VirtualBox is, and I do this all the time, I have usually way too many windows open, I always start this in headless mode, or at the headless start, which essentially doesn't bring up this window with the desktop, because I don't need the desktop. I just need this VirtualBox to run, and everything else I do via SSH as if it were any other Linux server. So again, if I just go here and do SSH Oracle localhost 2229, let's see, the VM is still booting up. So you see that this is taking a little bit here. SSH server is probably not yet running. Here we go. Now I can type in my password, and again I'm here in my VirtualBox environment, or my Linux VM here, at which stage I can do whatever I want, including you may wonder, how do you shut down the VM now that you have started in headless? Well, it's super simple. I just do sudo shutdown my -h now, authenticate, and basically just treated it like any other Linux server. Just sent the shutdown command, and you see here it's powered off again. Hopefully this was helpful for you. It's a really neat trick to just use your local terminal and all your tools that you have installed on your Mac, and not having to deal with the desktop inside the VM. Thanks a lot for watching, and stay tuned for more awesome tips.